Welcome to the Meat News. I'm Evan.
I am Tyler.
And we're joined today by Charles Heckroodt of Superior Wagyu. And really interested today to talk to you, Charles. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's cool. We're really trying to reach out to farmers and producers all over the U.S. that are raising Wagyu beef, that have different experiences, raising it with different cattle, and just to get a better idea of what's happening around the U.S. and get more information about this Wagyu breed that we love so much, and really make it less scary for people to order Wagyu and taste Wagyu and try Wagyu. So really excited to have you today, man. And you have a unique background, so I'd love to kick it off to you and tell us, how you got started. What's your story? How did you get started in the Wagyu beef industry?
Yeah, well, so originally from South Africa, moved over here to the US about 20 years ago. Didn't get here with a whole lot of money, so when I got my first job, I decided I was going to treat myself and go to the grocery store, buy myself the nicest steak I could find. So, based on the grocery store I could afford at the time, there was a Winn-Dixie, and I bought the best steak I could find on the shelf. I took it home, I grilled it, I ate it, and I spat it back up. It was the most disgusting steak I've ever eaten. It just had zero flavor, tasted like water. And I was just blown away that how do you come from Africa to eat better food than in one of the most expensive cities in America? Like, how is that even possible? So,
where were you at that point?
I was in Florida at that time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, down Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So big super yachts and multi-million-dollar homes and disgusting beef.
Shitty beef. Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, I decided that there's got to be a better option, and over a few months, as my job kind of got better and I made a little bit of money, and I would drive up into northern Florida, or central Florida, into Ocala area, and buy live cattle, just one steer at a time from a local farmer I met online on farmersonly.com. And that's a joke. I bought a steer from the guy and butchered it and took it home, and it was way better. So I handed some steaks out to my neighbors, and we just, everyone was like, man, this steak's really good. Can we get more? So it became a little side business where on the weekends we'd harvest an animal like once a month. And anyway, one of the farmers gave me a steak one day when I was up there. He's like, you got to try this. This stuff's called Wagyu. I took it home and cooked it that night, and my life changed forever.
That was it.
Dude.
The moment.
Yeah, what cut was it?
It was a strip steak, and the joke looking back, it wasn't even good Wagyu. It was just so much better than what we had access to,
Sure.
So you have to remember 20 years ago, Wagyu wasn't in grocery stores, You'd be hard-fetched to find it in a restaurant, It kind of rocked my world a little bit, and I was like, how do I get more of these?
That's like the same thing that we hear that story so much, is that first time you have it, you're like, what have I been missing this whole time? Like, I didn't even realize that beef could be this good. Yeah. So, and you said you grew up eating meat from did you grow up on a farm in South Africa or close to a farm?
Yeah. I grew up on a farm in South Africa, and so that's why when I moved here, we were just used to eating farm-raised beef, and America's, I shouldn't say the only country in the world, but we mass produce so much junk that when you find something that's good, it has the ability to stand out, And I'm not calling it by any mean, but You know,
Oh yeah.
that $9.99 a pound steak I bought, it was probably worth what I paid for it, but it didn't taste very good.
Man, I mean, for real, we see that so much, and it's so funny because if you know, I said this last time, I think on a Instagram reel or something, but you can buy a $20 or $30 New York strip from the store that's just going to be horse shit, or you can buy like a unique cut from the animal, from a Wagyu animal for around $20, like a zabuton, or even like, you know, part of a flank steak, or you know, a bavette. And it's like anything.
Skirt steak. Wagyu skirt steak is
Oh,
phenomenal.
Wagyu skirt steak is phenomenal, man. You're right. I love
Yeah,
that.
Wagyu skirt steak is on our menu once a week.
Yeah,
It's one of those things that we eat, and the good thing about good, healthy, well-raised Wagyu is you don't have to buy the ribeye, you don't have to buy the tenderloin. Sure, those are all really good, but my favorite cut in the animal is the top round. Yeah, the top and bottom round. I cut them into steaks, and I just cook it like a steak. It's got a little bit of chew, but it's got a lot of flavor and a lot of tenderness for a round. You know, and the meat industry's kind of messed up where that's just considered junk, you know, but when you have good genetics, good feed, good environment, healthy, relaxed animals, you can use these bottom end cuts for a really good product. Like if I walk to my freezer right now, there's a strip steak and a bottom round laying there, I'd probably take the bottom round. Yeah.
Wow. Dude, so many more stakeable items, right? So many more ways we can utilize this cow, with it being a Wagyu cow, because it's the marbling makes it so much softer to be able to, you know, use that round as a steak. I mean, you're not going to go to your local grocery store and buy top round and be able to cook it as a steak, because it's not going to be the same quality, even close to that same quality. But with a nice, well-raised Wagyu beef, you know, you should be able to take that round and cut it, like you said, and to have some beautiful, maybe slightly chewy steaks, which some people like. Some people like that texture.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the kind of, I shouldn't say issues, but one of the points of education. Like the American palate is, they like a little bit of chew because we've become so used to that non-tender beef, you know. So when you give them highly marbled, like BMS 9 or A5 or whatever Wagyu, and it just falls apart in their mouth, for your average American, there's a learning curve needed to enjoy that. But if you give them one Wagyu, or even a cut from a full blood, or something that, like a top round or bottom round, or something that's cut into a baseball steak, it still has that little bit of chew, but it's got kick-ass flavor, and you know, it's got very decent tenderness considering it's a round.
I think it's amazing that you said top round or bottom round. I think it's amazing that you raise these animals. You get to have your pick. You could eat ribeye every day if you wanted to, but I think it's amazing that you said top round, bottom round, because the beef marbling scale on Wagyu, and you know, the part of the education for common folk that don't really get it. That's the crazy thing about those I'd say, air quotes, lesser cuts, but because the intermuscular marbling is so freaking rich, there's so much more stakeable items out of the whole animal.
Yeah, we love that, man. We love that. Gosh,
so like you have a lot of these small, I say small and no disrespect, but you have these smaller box beef companies that are, some of the people you've interviewed before, which are doing phenomenal jobs in Wagyu and raising really good cattle. And part of every rancher's job is to sell the whole animal. So when you can sell a quarter or sell a half or sell a whole to a family, and teach them a little bit about, hey, you know, this bottom round, it doesn't have to go in the oven to make roast beef. You know, you can make steaks with it. You know, it really blows people's minds, because you can utilize a lot more of the animal for the way that we eat every day. You know, we don't roast a beef roast every day, you know?
Yeah, man. So I love it. So you had Wagyu beef for the first time. It changed your life. So then you decided you wanted to raise these animals, or what happened after that?
Yeah, so it was a very slow progression.
Mm.
I was buying, maybe one or two animals a month and having it harvested in Florida and distributing the beef just really out of the back of my car. Like, that's not even a joke. It was literally in the back of my Jeep. But taking it to my neighbors, my friends, like, and so I didn't make any money doing that. My earnings was all in steaks. So I figured out, okay, what do I need to sell this animal for me to be able to keep, 150 pounds in my freezer? And so that's just the price it was.
That's awesome.
And then I had, loads of people reaching out, like, we want steaks, and we just want this cut, or we want that cut. And so I started to buy a few more cattle and a few more cattle. And, over the years, it turned into buying potloads of cattle at a time. Which is how I met one of my partners, Joe, who owns Superior Wagyu with me. I was buying potloads of cattle from Joe with my other partner, Kyle, and we were harvesting them down in Fort Worth, and I was just distributing the meat. And one of the problems we kind of ran into was we kind of progressed from buying fat cattle to buying feeder cattle, so we could control the environment, control the feed. But we got to a point where we were buying quite a lot of cattle, and so if I bought from Evans Ranch or from Tyler's Ranch, the cattle were going to be different. You guys have different mama cows, you got different bulls, you got different environments. So we did that for a long time, and we were just brokering a lot of cattle, supplying some of the real big Wagyu companies that you guys all have heard of, with ranch cattle. And I had this little brainwave go off. I was like, man, there's got to be a way to do a consistent product that is, I don't have to buy all of my calves in the fall because they were all born in the spring. There's got to be a consistent way to do it. So we started messing around with dairies, and plenty of people have done it before us, so we didn't invent it by any means. So we took red Wagyu, Wakayushi, we took Black Wagyu, we bred them to Jersey cows, we bred them to Holstein cows, and we went through the cycle of 3,000 or 4,000 head of each. We watched the average daily gains on them, we watched the closeout data, we watched the grade, and it was a absolute no-brainer to us. The Black Wagyu Jersey cow cross just smoked everything.
Really?
I was so curious.
Yeah.
Generally, Jersey cow is used for dairy, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the cool things about the Jersey cow is, if you look back at the original genetics for Wagyu, I think there's like 25 to 26% of the actual Wagyu cow derives from Jersey, right? So all we did was just add it back in. Yep. And so Jersey cows have a very high butter fat content, and Wagyu cows have, obviously really good fatty acid profiles. And so we just decided to add those two back together again, throw it at the wall and see if it sticks,
That's right.
Yeah, so 32,000 cows later, I can tell you it's stuck and it's doing well.
Wow.
Jeez. So you have so you're doing 32,000 cows. Is that a year?
We've actually done quite a bit more than that, but I think that's our current inventory.
Yeah.
And I say inventory because a lot of them are contracted, so they're either with their end buyer right now in the feedlot or in the calf ranch. Generally, I think at any given point we probably own 12 to 16,000 or something like that as Superior Wagyu, but there'd be probably double that in the feedlots.
So then give me a rundown of their life. So you breed them, they're born, and then what happens there until they're sold at your ranch? If you give us a little breakdown of that.
Yes, so because it's beef on dairy, what we do is we have a bunch of bulls in collection. So we supply the dairy with our semen, and then we buy that calf when it's 1 day old. So the dairy takes the semen, gets the Jersey cow pregnant. We ship them EID tags with our, all our information on it. The cow has a calf. It gets our ear tag on day one. We send a truck, picks it up, takes it to our calf ranch. At the calf ranch, we do colostrum scores on them. So we make sure that the dairy actually gave that calf its required colostrum from mama,
Yeah.
which plays a really big role in the animal health. Then that calf, it gets isolated and put in a hutch, which a lot of people will say that is so cruel, that is so mean. But hey, man, as long as America's going to eat cheese and drink milk, you're going to have to deal with calves in a hutch. That's the
Right.
down to basics,
Yeah.
In fact, what we've done is we were able to get our Wagyu, our beef on dairy Wagyu, certified sustainable through the Beef Care Program. Because it is a sustainable product. It's our Wagyu calves are a byproduct of milk and cheese, and so we have the Beef Care approval on every one of our calves. So that little calf goes into the hutch, and it gets, depending on the season, it gets 3 bottles of milk a day and 2 bottles of electrolytes in the summer. And then in the winter, just 1 bottle of electrolytes. And then we'll wean them in that hutch for about 90 days. They get free choice grain and water on day one, but really for the first 21 to 30 days, all they do is play with the food and spit it out. But when you start to wean them off the milk bottle, they start to eat a little bit more of the feed,
Okay.
So by the time they're 90 days old or so, and we remove them from the hutch, we put them in group pens of 64 head per pen. They'll then go into that group pen. That's when they get to play, run around, fly kick, cartwheel, get their heads stuck in fences, all just normal cow things.
And kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
I'm curious to know, because I worked on a farm out here in Washington, one of the islands out here called Vashon, and it was a very small kind of boutique farm, and I cooked dinners out there and whatnot. But we raised Jersey cows there predominantly to make cheese. And I remember different seasons because the Jersey cows, correct me if I'm wrong here, but they have a special system in their body that passes the carotene in the grass. And when it's really summery and very grassy, it makes the milk almost a dingy yellow. I'm curious to know, does that translate into the Wagyu fat color? Is there going to be does it look like a dairy cow? Does the fat look yellowish or?
Yeah, so yes and no. In a nutshell, if you were to grass feed all of these cattle, the fat will all be very yellow. We have a diet that we put together, and so really the last 200 days or so of that animal's lifespan, we really try and reduce any of that alfalfa and grass dry matter and increase some other ingredients which reduces or basically whitens the fat.
Right.
The reduction of vitamin A and introducing vitamin E. Vitamin E makes the meat pop more red, and it's all just natural for their bodies. They can absorb it all. So change the color of the fat to white and change the color of the meat to red.
Yeah. All right. So they continue on with their lifestyle here. So after they've been spitting out their food and weaning them off the milk, then now where do they go?
Yeah. So they get into their group pens. They'll be in that group pen from about day 90 to day 130. And that's where we really see, most of the sickness you will ever see in any kind of beef on dairy cross is generally going to be in the first 30 to 40 days.
Really?
And so we try and get that out of the way. The electrolytes helped a lot. Really, really helped us a lot with death loss of calves. So when we put them in these group pens, that's when they're going to be susceptible to catching things like pneumonia, because they're all running around with snotty noses. And so they'll be in that group pen till about day 130, and then we'll double the size of the pen. They'll go to like a 128 head per pen, and that's generally the pen they stay in until harvest. So we raise them in our calf ranches until they weigh about 400 pounds. And then at 400 pounds, we'll move them to, either to our buyer's feedlot or to the feedlots we use. And then that's where they'll be finished out on our ration, our schedule. And the thing with Wagyu in particular, but especially a Jersey Wagyu cross is, it's not your conventional beef that you have to feed real hot, real quick, and harvest it at 18 months old. We really want to take our time with it. So we keep them on a grower ration until they're around 800 pounds before we ever even consider turning any heat up on them. There's a comparison of, if you took an Angus steer and a Wagyu steer, they're both really good products, but you cook them both differently. An Angus steer is like a ribeye. You can just throw it on the grill and it's done in a few minutes. A Wagyu steer is like a brisket. You got to throw it in the smoker and you kind of got to forget about it for 8 hours. They'll both taste amazing at the end. You just have to feed the Wagyu so much slower, which brings up the price of the product. But there's no point in having a good product if you're going to ruin it on trying to maximize your cost output on it, or minimize your cost output.
So most conventional beef is usually harvested at 16 to 20 months, around that 18-month range. And then Wagyu, when do you guys usually harvest?
Yeah, so the Wagyu Angus crosses, so the Wagyu Jersey crosses, we harvest them anywhere from 21 to 23, 24 months. They actually mature a lot faster than the Angus Wagyu cross. The Angus Wagyu is 24 to 28, and then full blood Wagyu, obviously, the longer the better. You can knock a full blood at 50 months old and be phenomenal. So if you can keep it alive for that long.
But you have mostly F1 cross. Is that what you call it? That 50-50?
Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah, 50-50 F1, half Jersey, half Black Wagyu.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Because, some people, we've heard that, like, terminology. We always like to talk a little terminology. Some people call 50-50 American Wagyu. We've heard that a lot from kind of all over the country. We love F1 Cross. I think that kind of just makes it very specific. It's 50% Wagyu, 50% another breed. But, yeah, is there any other terminology that you've heard that is different kind of around? Because I know you've kind of traveled around a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, American Wagyu, completely acceptable. I don't think American Wagyu means F1, although the vast majority of Wagyu in America is F1. But, you'll hear people saying, Kobe beef or A5. I see that on menus a lot. Like, we'll go out for dinner and you'll see, Evan Carter's ranch, A5 Wagyu, raised, in Seattle. And I'm like, well, you can't call it A5 because it's not from Japan. You can't call it Kobe because it's not from Kobe. It's Wagyu. It's what it is. So I think there's just a lot of education, both on the producer side and also on the consumer side. And even like you guys, like, the restaurant side of it, educating your staff, your chefs, your owners, your everything, like, hey, we're going to call it what it is,
Yeah.
There's no shame in F1 Wagyu. There's no shame in full blood. Call it American Wagyu, call it, Montana Wagyu, call it whatever you want. As long as you fit within the USDA rules and regulations, which, you have to have a certain percentage of Wagyu in it to call it Wagyu.
Yeah, exactly. So what about some health benefits? I think people get, like Tyler mentioned earlier, people get scared. It's too fatty. I like it lean. I don't want to have all that fat. But what are some of the health benefits with the Wagyu fat that you're very familiar with?
Yeah. So, obviously a lot of them, but we had a study done with UC Davis in California. And they tested our Wagyu Jersey cross against just conventional Angus beef. And happy to share that information with you guys. But
Sure.
what they found, the nutritional value of the Wagyu fat, the amino fatty acid compounds or composition, the conversion ratio between omega 3s and 6s actually in the live animal was astronomical, to the point where they didn't say it, and I don't think they will without testing 100,000 animals, but nutritionally a piece of Wagyu is going to be very equivalent to a piece of wild caught salmon. Exactly. Nutritional value. Now, they're not going to put it on paper, and I'm happy to say it, but do your homework before before you just believe everything I say.
It's crazy though. It is funny that it's not really out there yet that it is like a healthy fat. I think it's because people are. We've just been told for so long that fat is bad for you. You can't eat that. Leaner is better. Grass fed's way better for you. But I can't wait for the day where it actually is out in the open that this is good healthy fat for you. This is like an olive oil, like a wild caught salmon, like you said. Rich in omega 3s and omega 9s. And I can't wait for that day to happen where people actually admit that, where it's out to the public, because even we say it all the time. We're around Wagyu just like you all the time, and people still, they hear it from us and they go, okay, guys, sure, that sounds good. Okay, I'm gonna eat this piece of meat, and I mean, of course, everything in moderation. And when we talked to Dr. Jerry Reeves, he said that same thing too. He's like, yes, it is very healthy, but of course, everything in moderation. Don't go eat a pound and a half of A5 Wagyu because the fat is very healthy. That's still a lot of fat, so it does have more fat, but it is interesting that even with studies being done, it's still kind of kept hidden under the rug a little bit.
Yeah. Can you guys hold on for 1 second? Emily, can you put the A5 back in the freezer? We can't have a pound and a half tonight. Sorry.
Don't eat a pound and a half. Yeah, right. If you can do it, I'd be impressed.
Well, that's the cool thing about American Wagyu, like the F1 Wagyu cross, is you can actually eat a decent amount of it. And I'll be honest, like my Winn-Dixie steak, man, I could have eaten 3 pounds of it because it had zero marbling, zero nutritional value. It was basically water injected meat. If you go and eat A5 Wagyu, boy, I'd be impressed if you ate 8 ounces of it. It is very rich, and then you take that F1 Wagyu and it's perfectly in the middle. Where we're all 3 big guys and we can go to a steakhouse and order a 16-ounce steak, and if it's F1 Wagyu, trust me, 10 ounces is enough. It's more than enough for you. So like Dr. Reeves said, like everything in moderation, and not only is the fatty acid composition of Wagyu better for you and for your body and your gut and your health, but you find yourself eating a little bit less of it,
It's real. Even the full bloods, man. Even the full bloods for me, I have a 17-year-old son, and I'll cook up a full blood New York strip, and I'll split that with him. And because it's like by about 6 ounces, I'm getting a little full. But regular a nice prime or F1 cross New York strip, man, I'm taking that whole thing down. But that full blood even gets me a little bit too. I gotta give everything in moderation for that.
It's rich, and I wholeheartily agree with you that F1 is that's my go-to. It is my favorite blend. It really is. We just got a ultra F1 strip today that I'm really excited to cut into, check it out, and taste it. I can't.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll be cutting into that one, man, real soon. So, I think, talking about getting back to the farm in Superior Wagyu, you have a lot of cattle. So how, with Wagyu beef and everything, it's, being raised a certain way and caring for the quality. How do you guys, what are some practices you guys have over there that, can ensure that having that many cattle, you get that same consistency and quality? Because I know consistency is a real big thing for you.
Yeah, I mean, so everything is our whole business is built on quality and consistency. But you cannot let the animals suffer because of that. So we fine picked out genetics. We fine picked the dairies we use, the calf ranches we use, the feedlots we use, the feed we use. Everything is controlled, and that's where we get our real consistency in product size, flavor composition, flavor profiles, all of that stuff. I do not believe in antibiotic-free beef, because if we have an animal that is sick and it needs to be treated, it's going to be treated. We're not going to let that animal suffer because society told us you can't give this animal antibiotics, so your whole program's out the window.
Right.
So I will always treat an animal if it is sick, if it needs it. It'll be treated. It'll follow all the rules and regulations as to whether we can sell it to our customers or not, or it goes to a different customer that has a treated claim on their label or whatever. So there's a lot of confusion in the whole industry, the beef industry in general, about hormone antibiotic treated cattle. Now, hormones are a whole different ball game. You put them into to basically convince those cattle to grow faster. So we don't do that with our Wagyu beef. That is it's an American standard of doing that to conventional cattle in feed yards. And we do have a certain set of calves that were implanted with hormones, and but their owner, their buyer, decided to do that. And if you own the cattle, you can do anything you like with them. But I don't like the never ever claim, never ever any hormones or antibiotics or anything like that, because you can drive to the ranch down the road. That's the healthiest, beautifulest grazing pastures in the world. You see a sick cow, you want to treat the cow.
Sure.
You don't leave your baby sitting in the living room crying with a fever and don't treat her. Don't treat your animals like that either.
No, I think you're right. I think with the hormones, a lot of people, we associate it in the States with like, oh, it's those chickens getting fed hormones and then just getting so big and growing so fast. And then we're like, oh, and the antibiotics must be in there too, because they're just shoving all this stuff in there. So I think that's a good point to talk about, because even when I hear that, I'm like, antibiotics, oh my gosh. But, it is to treat the cow. It's not hormones. So I think that's an interesting conversation to keep having, down the road. It's like antibiotics versus hormones. Obviously, what's the real deal if it's all done correctly and administered correctly, and is there a time frame it needs to pass through the cow before it's harvested? I don't know that, but it's an interesting conversation, because it is something, a lot of miseducation out there, that's everything's bad. But I mean, cows get sick, right? So we need to treat our animals.
They live
I would say
outside.
that most of the
Yeah.
cattle that we have, they're probably sick, or if any of them that get treated with antibiotics, it's probably within the first 120 days of their life, right?
Yeah. Right.
Or 130 days of their life that they're treated. You know, there will be a percentage that grows older that gets treated later on, but very, very small amount.
Yeah.
So if you think about, let's just call it a 120-day-old gets treated with antibiotics. Well, we're harvesting these animals at like anywhere from 640 to 700 days old.
Mhm.
Like, trust me, that antibiotic is gone. Yeah.
There's no trace of antibiotics.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Uh, that
it
makes
is. It's a spicy conversation, even in the Wagyu industry, But
Yep.
I wouldn't let my kids sit sick without helping them, so I won't let the cows do the same.
yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, we'll probably get some comments. We like that stuff. So let's, what's the Wagyu industry like in Wyoming, and you're partly in Wyoming and Montana, is that correct? You have the butcher box out of Montana, and then the farm in Wyoming.
Yeah, so we do have a farm in Wyoming, but we live up here in northern Montana.
Okay.
So I'm sitting in my wife's office right now because my office is the workshop, and I don't think you guys wanted to see that as a background.
No
Yeah,
worries.
I do.
Yeah.
it would raise a lot of questions. Um, all the beer in there, I promise, is for the cows. None of it is for me.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, gotta feed those Wagyu cattle beer, right?
exactly right.
Exactly.
So yeah, we're in Montana, and then we do have a box beef company, a local box beef company called
Great.
rangemt.com, and we
Okay.
just redid the website, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and we're doing direct to consumer box beef now, and so range is interesting because it's four groups, or four friends that basically formed a company together, and everybody owns a ranch and everybody raises cattle. There was no, well, there's no pride in just trying to do it yourself. When there's
Yeah.
four of you, you're all friends and you're all doing it in any way. Let's just do it
Yeah.
together. And
That's great.
so we're spread out over four different ranches, and everyone has their role to play in the company. And we primarily harvest the Jersey Wagyu crosses. We do have some Angus Wagyu crosses that we're kind of phasing out, but it's kind of hilarious. If you guys came to my ranch in Montana, I think you'd laugh as hard as my neighbors did when I moved in, because there's a bunch of Jersey cows walking in my pastures, and that is just not very common in Montana.
Right? They're all Black
Everything
Angus over
here
there.
is, yep. So
Where
we've
exactly
got,
are you in northern Montana?
so we're close to Shelby, which is right on the Canadian border.
My parents lived in Libby for a long time, and I know that neck of the woods a little bit.
There you go. Yeah, we
Yeah.
got
It's a little
real
chilly up
lucky.
there.
Say that again.
It's a little chilly up there.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we moved. I helped my neighbors yesterday morning. We shipped like 3 loads of their feeders out, and it was cold. Yeah, my hand is
Oh.
sticking to the gate.
Cold.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
So what is it like in there? What's the Wagyu scene like in Montana and Wyoming? Because here in Seattle, it's still, people are starting to get a little bit. You'll see it in some menus, like in some restaurants and things like that. You see it used properly in menus. You'll see it used improperly in menus. But what is it like out there?
Still a very big learning curve. There's quite a few restaurants here in Montana that even California. Let's see, ranges in Montana, California, Texas, Tennessee, and New York, in some different restaurants and distributors and stuff. And it's everything's education, but we still have a long way to go to educate the people. But more importantly, our responsibility as producers is we need to be able to provide a good product at an affordable price.
Yeah.
You can't,
Yep.
you can't go and sell a $180 a pound tomahawk because it's Wagyu and your neighbor said the bull was good, If you're going to do that, you're going to have to back it up with some sort of data, nutritional value studies, something. And I think we're kind of on the cusp of scouring the American palate with the pricing. So we really, Superior Wagyu raises a lot of cattle at a very affordable price. And part of that goal is, get it to a consumer where they can afford it, because if you walk into a grocery store and ground beef is $5.99 and you can get Wagyu for $7.99, chances are once or twice a month you're going to buy the Wagyu instead. Yeah. So it's just, all of the producers need to work together and produce a product that's actually affordable. And it comes down to obviously your geographic location, like, Seattle, San Francisco, LA, you can sell that product for more, but I don't know how many ranches there are in LA. I'm guessing not a lot. So, I mean, our biggest thing as an industry is we need to figure out, how do we still make a little bit of money raising this beef? But how? I would rather make $1 a pound and sell 20 million pounds than make $10 a pound and sell 1,000 pounds.
Sure.
Let's go out and do it. And I tell you what, when 80% of the American population has the chance to try Wagyu, they're not going back.
Never.
Yeah.
I got a 14-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they are spoiled meat rotten.
I know.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I have a little 8-month-old daughter, and
Nice.
I gave her. So we had some bone-in tenderloin the other night. I took a little piece off for her, and her eyes were rolling back in her head.
That's great.
Yeah, I think she took the broccoli and threw it across the room.
I
I
know.
was like, I want this
Raising a
bone-in
true Montanan over there.
Yeah. So how do you like your top round? What else do you like on a Wagyu cow, and how do you like to cook it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say strip steak's my second favorite, because it's so easy, so simple. Literally salt, pepper, grill. Yeah. I have a little bit of a. My wife calls it an addiction. I call it a passion, but I'm fairly certain we have 13 or 14 different grills outside right now. And every grill has a job. Yeah. Every grill has a particular thing that you cook on it in a particular way. So,
Love it.
Our branding was a few weeks ago, and we rolled out the big smoker. We have a mill scale smoker on a trailer, and so we rolled that out, and we did a 24-hour cherrywood smoke on some short ribs and some briskets that were just ridiculous.
Amazing.
Oh man.
Yeah, just and honestly, like, it was salt and pepper. It wasn't 37 different seasonings and salt, pepper, Goodwood. So but I'd say, I mean, the to answer your question. Sorry, go ahead.
What was that?
Flathead cherrywood, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, Charles, what's the best way to grill Wagyu? Because here's my experience: is a lot of times, if I just get a nice piece and I put it on my grill over those hot coals, it's going to start flaming up. So then I got a contraption where I raised my grill a little bit more, and that way I can still get a little bit of that open fire grill, but it's raised so it's not quite, the flame's not really hitting the meat, so I'm not like scorching it. And then sometimes I'll get a cast iron pan and put it on my grill and cook it that way. But like if you have a New York strip that's beautifully marbled, how are you grilling it?
Yeah, so I have I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Weber Summit Series grill. It's kind of their big kettle. It's like the green egg, just half the price and twice as good.
Oh wow, nice. I like
So I'll usually use hardwood. I'll sear the steak real hot, real fast. Take it off, lift the grill, and put the smoke diffuser in the bottom, which is just, then you can throw it back on and it won't catch fire, but it'll stay at that good temperature, So, and that's the ticket right there. Cast iron pan.
Are you searing it over open fire like that, or do you have a grill plate or anything like that?
First over open fire, and then we'll put that grill plate or that flame diffuser in the bottom, and so you still have the smokiness, you still have the heat, you just don't have the flames jumping up, because I nearly burned down a rental house in California once because of cooking Wagyu. So,
right.
Yeah, true, very true story.
That happens, dude. I know. I've seen it.
I think we probably had like 20 pounds of real nice, highly marbled strip steaks on the barbecue, on a gas barbecue, and I was sitting inside, and my sister-in-law came in, and she's like, "Hey, question for you: is the grill supposed to be on fire?" And I looked out, and it was like a ball of fire.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we always tell people that when they buy like a nice piece of Wagyu, I'm like,
careful.
Don't just leave it on your grill, because you might burn your house down. Like no joke. And people are like, ha ha ha. I'm like, no, I'm fucking serious. It'll that fat will catch, and you will just straight up fire. Man.
I mean, you guys being in the food scene yourselves, and obviously very good at cooking, but a lot of people may think it's sacrilege, but if you take that Wagyu, that really marbled Wagyu strip steak, and you dice it into big, 1 or 2 inch cubes, and do like kebabs with it, that's another like absolute winner. You marinate it overnight, and you put your veggies on there, and you cook it, and you just can't beat it. Like, very, very good.
That sounds delightful.
I still, if I get like a Wagyu flank or a Toro, sometimes we get that here from the belly. I'll marinate the crap out of that, man. People are like, "You marinate Wagyu?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do. It's fucking delicious. It is like the best steak you'll ever have, man." But I haven't cut up in New York into cubes. I should do that, like a beautifully marbled. Just make some kebabs. Oh, that sounds dope. I love those kebabs. I love those steak bites.
Some steak bites there, Ev.
That's my favorite thing in the world is steak bites, man. It's just the easiest thing to eat. Bites. And it's Wagyu steak bites, man. Give me that all day.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome. So you prefer to sear it first and then smoke it. We tell people a lot to smoke it first and then sear it after. So it just depends. What's your opinion on that? Like the sear, then smoke, or the reverse sear where you smoke and then sear?
I like to sear it first and then smoke it, because it's not going to be on that fire long enough to get all of that smoke in anyway. So you're just going to have that smoke in the crust, and that's how I do it. It's probably wrong, but I've gained 50 pounds since I've started in Wagyu, so I'm obviously doing it right.
Doing everything right.
And then, like, your guys' opinion, I mean, like, have you guys had the Wagyu oxtail?
Oxtail?
I have never had Wagyu oxtail.
No.
But that sings to me. I love oxtail.
Yeah.
We have a cast iron pot that we put out over the open coals, and a nice Wagyu oxtail stew in there in the winter, and it's crazy good. You can use wine or sherry, a little bit of broth. I'm not a big fan of Brussels sprouts, but when you cut them in half and throw them in the stew, they suck up all that juice, and boy, they just It's really, really, really good, really rich. You can drink it out of the pot. So
Oh,
you guys should try that out.
That's good, man.
stop, dude. I haven't eaten anything today.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know. God, that sounds good. Yeah, we got to get some oxtail. You know, we gotta place an order at Range MT, man. We gotta try some of this. I'm really interested to try that your Jersey breed. That sounds really really interesting, man. I love
Absolutely.
it.
We'll get you guys some beef sent over if you promise to film yourselves cooking the oxtail.
Done.
Dude. Oh man, you just made Tyler's day, man. Like for
I'm
real.
making more than one.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, sweet. Charles, man, this has been great. Are there any closing thoughts you want people to know about Wagyu beef before we sign this off today?
Just don't leave it on the grill unsupervised, first of all.
Like, yeah. Bring your house down.
Lesson number one.
Yeah.
I think there's so many good Wagyu producers in the US. I think the biggest thing is just find someone close to you that you believe in and buy their beef, It may seem slightly more expensive than the grocery store, but the nutritional value, the benefit, the benefit to the rancher who's putting in all this work, you don't have to go and buy my beef. Just please buy it from somebody that you're happy with the process, That's about it. I mean,
that is
if Americans start buying more from local farms, we'll be in good shape.
Yep. That is probably our number one thing that we tell people at the butcher shop is know your butcher, know your farmer, ask the butcher if he knows the farmer, like first name basis, right? I think that's one of the biggest things for us when we're talking to our clientele is like, if your butcher doesn't know the name of the farm or the farmer's name or has ever met them or has ever been to the ranch, they're bullshit.
Yeah. It's probably not good.
You guys will need to come out to Montana. We'll strategically plan it for branding. So we'll put you guys to work. You'll think you're coming out for a party, and 6 hours later, covered in shit, you'll be like, "Where's the food?"
No problem. I'm in.
Yeah.
We need to do that, man. I know we've been talking. We need to get out there because, I mean, like I said, Tyler's parents live in Montana, so man, we can get out there and go visit them, and then come on and see you, man.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I appreciate your guys' time. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
man.
Man, thanks, Charles. We appreciate you, man. We'll be talking soon. We got to keep this relationship going because it's great to know what's happening over there in Montana all the time. And yeah, we're gonna head over and see you real soon.
Sounds good, man. Thank you.
All right, signing out for the meat dudes. We will see you guys later.